What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday evening. I am back. Last week's show was just, about forex trading and everything, so a lot of people didn't really tune in for it. I completely understand. I just was like, I was just in the zone. I had to go guest cancel. I had to do it. I think I'm on week 18 in a row. I had to look up at the episode because we're on episode 16 of season 3 already. It's pretty crazy that we're already going into March, my birthday month. Yes, I get the whole month as my birthday, and I'm excited to start off my birthday month podcast with Michelle Lyons. She is the CEO of Beyond Entertainment and Sports, which is a sports marketing company. But that's just barely scratching the surface of what she does. She just started I believe, daily news show. It's an independent news show that she gets her facts herself. She's not, beholden to anybody like a lot of media sources are. And I'm just excited. I'm excited to talk to Michelle. So we're gonna play the intro music and get into it because we just started getting into good conversation before this, and I didn't want to miss it. So let's go.
Wait, what am I doing? Created a movement, won't ruin what you are pursuing. But I wake up every morning, never yawning, cause I wake up with the intent to make the day my bitch. And I don't need to hear you talking, so just shut your lips. Cause I'ma make it, yeah, I'ma make it, I'ma make it, I'ma make it. Lord have mercy, I'ma make it. I wake up with the intent to make the day my bitch. And I don't need to hear you talking, so just shut your lips. I'ma make it, yeah, I'ma make it, I'ma make it, I'ma make it. Lord have mercy, I'ma make it up. This shit is crazy, right? This shit is crazy.
Oh man, I I I do this every time, right? We haven't really had, I don't think, a conversation at all until you got on here. Besides, like commenting on each other's posts on Facebook, and I'm really not even sure how you got onto my Facebook. But I'm glad you're there because I really enjoy a lot of the stuff you post, and I'm excited to have you on. But I do this every time I have somebody like this on my show where I haven't talked to them in real life. We end up talking about a bunch of stuff before the show, and I'm like, no, 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 we got to get on live. We got to get it on there. So yeah, I really want to hop right into our conversation about, God and everything because I feel like that's very important, especially right now where people are going through a lot of stuff, and looking for something to, turn to or answers or something, relief. I feel like a lot of what you post about religion, as I said before the show, I'm not really a religious person. I do believe there is a higher power, but um, the stuff you post resonates with me. It really does. It's like my employee that I was talking about, Amanda. The way she thinks about religion and Jesus and God is very non-judgmental, non-pushy, non anything but delivering the truth from God.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah,
So,
that's exactly how I see it.
have you been a Christian your whole life?
I was actually raised by my Jewish stepmother. So I was raised more Jewish than I was raised Christian. She's Ashkenazi Jew. And my dad actually is an atheist. So it was
I
my
thought I
dad.
noticed that you had a Star of David and a cross underneath it, right? In
Yes.
one of your
So I,
pictures.
I wear the Star of David because I am a Christian. But I consider myself a Masonic Jew, in the sense that for me, it just makes the most sense. When I first started going to the Church of Christ when I was 14 years old. And then in college, I kind of hung out with some Hebrew Israelites and some Rastas and things like that. And they all had the Star of David and stuff, so it just kind of resonated with me. I go to a non
Denominational.
a non-denominational church, so they've got everything from Seventh Day Adventist to Baptist to you name it at the church that I go to. But I always wear the Star of David. For me, is just a reminder that Jesus was Jewish, and it's also a reminder that Jesus was a Black Jewish man. So that's kind of why I wear it. And then the cross, just so that people know I'm Christian and not Jewish.
I know it's so important to just talk about, Jesus not being white for a second. Like we're talking about people that dwelled in the desert. Like let's just take a look at the people who currently dwell and live in the desert. Like Do you think magically they became lighter skin tone than I am? Like, no, 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 no. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. It's just whitewashed, like a lot of history, unfortunately.
Well, the Bible actually even describes what Jesus looked like. So that's why it's actually ironic that the description of Jesus has never been taken out of the Bible, yet the pictures of Jesus are completely opposite of what the
How do they
Bible.
describe him?
In the Bible, he's got hair like wool and he's bronze, so he's
Hmm.
a bronze man. So at least my color, because I'm probably like a lighter bronze, and he's got hair like wool, so
I
it's
like that so much better.
Asiatic Asiatic eyes. So he's got like almond eyes, and he's got hair like wool. So he's got like probably an afro, and he's a little bit probably darker than me.
Man, I like bronze. I like that description better for a skin color. Like I always,
Yeah.
it's like really like perfect and dead on because that really is how it is.
Yes, but if you
Hmm.
talk to like a racist Christian about that, they get real uncomfortable when you bring up the Bible scripture of
He
Jesus.
was using tanning lotion.
Yeah, even my church, we brought it up one time because they were talking about racism in the church. And I said, well, probably the easiest way to get rid of racism in the church is if we just put what Jesus actually looked like. I thought if all of the white people were praising a black man, I think that would get rid of racism. Don't you think?
That'd be something, right? Like just having them kneel down and worship a black man like that. I love it. I mean, there would totally be people that don't accept it because they're just ignorant, and that's just
Yeah.
kind of how it is with everything. The truth hurts some people's feelings.
The truth hurts a lot of people, even though I never understood it when like Kanye and Candace Owens would talk about people really, hating the truth. But I do
Hmm.
remember one thing that my grandmother used to always say to me. She said, people will take a lie over the truth any day.
Oh yeah.
A lie is easier to swallow. And even me, more so that I've become more awakened. And I know you and I talked a little bit about it because you were a Trump supporter. And I was
I'm
just,
not a Trump supporter, actually.
or
Just for the record.
okay,
I'm
but
a
you weren't a
complete
Biden
independent.
supporter. Okay,
Yeah.
but you weren't a Biden supporter.
Yeah.
So I just wanted the confusion to go away. It wasn't so much that I love Biden, even though I love women. I champion for women all the time. In my mind, I think that if we have more women in power, a lot of the craziness that goes on in society would be gone. That's what I think about when I think but it has to be the right type of woman. It can't be, there are some women that are just as toxic as men are.
Oh, you mean like Hillary Clinton?
Yes. Exactly. She devil. Exactly.
Oh my God. I remember when the 2016 election was happening, like I didn't vote. I did not
Uh-huh.
vote, and I could be just because I was like, "Really? Really? Like Hillary Clinton? Like I didn't know people liked her." I was like, "Wait a second, hold on. Hillary Clinton, you mean the same one that was trying to ban Grand Theft Auto? Hillary Clinton, you mean the same person who's married to Bill Clinton?" Okay, all right, very well, and that's just like scratching the surface of her evilness, but
Yes. Well, I could tell you, historically, because I'm such a historian, women who've always ran an empire have been the wife of a king. So
Hmm.
I actually thought Michelle Obama would run. I had it in my spirit, and God was telling me for a year and a half. If you were following me, God was telling me that Kamala was going to be chosen. But I'm not a big fan of Kamala. I knew why God was choosing her, but there's a lot of women that if I were going to go off of, what my principles and which my values are, I would probably pick somebody else.
Mm.
Um, but I think that, she's the right person for this time. But to me, what America really needs is a strong conservative woman, and I would love to see a strong conservative black woman in that position.
Yeah, it's crazy that, Candace Owens is putting her name in the hat for the 2024 election, and but it's good to see. It shakes up the whole system,
Oh
and
yeah.
but it's crazier because I feel like a lot of people are just like, you hate your own kind because you're a black conservative, and I'm like, why are people not allowed to think differently? Like Why is it that way? And I think this is the whole problem with identity politics in general, like labeling yourself Democrat or conservative. Like it's everybody just kind of needs to meet more in the middle the way it's supposed to be. Like it's okay. Like for me, I personally wouldn't get like I wouldn't want the person I was with to get an abortion, but it's not my body.
Hmm.
So I am totally in favor of people choosing what to do with their body. That's me, but I also like guns. Like, and I love
Hmm.
cannabis. So
Yeah.
it's like people just need to not be so dead set on an opinion that might not even be their own.
Well, the sad thing about a lot of people thinking that conservatives are basically like Uncle Toms and things of that nature. Some of that has to do with their own insecurity and them not
Right.
knowing who they are. I like Candace Owens more and more and more the more I connect with myself and I connect with God. But I also do think that she herself doesn't fully even understand herself all the way. Like how she handled the George Floyd situation was terrible. How she handles even talking about systemic racism. I mean, her when she talks about systemic racism, she's in complete contradiction. She'll
Mm-hmm.
point out everything systemically racist about the Democratic Party, and then say there's no systemic racism. Like, what do you mean? You just pointed out all the systemic racism. So there is systemic racism in this society. But she does say things that are needed for Black America to wake up. Is that we have been in an oppressive situation for a long time. And our oppressors have literally gotten to a point where they have fine-tuned oppression, fine-tuned
Mm.
it. They've put it in the colleges. They put it in because I'm thinking to myself, why are so many people that are educated naive about certain things? And then I realized some of my classes that I didn't do great in college, because I went to Berkeley, like the most liberal place on the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's because what people are learning is BS. Like it's literally. I'll never forget I took a sexuality gender class, and I got a C in this class, and I'm talking about things that are facts, and she's giving me opinions. And then I took another class about Che Guevara and about Fidel Castro, and the brainwashing that was in that class is absolutely, I mean, just terrible. And this class was literally painting Fidel Castro out to be the savior of Black people. Okay. Like poor Black people in Cuba, white people are taking all your money and everything else or whatever. They're oppressing you. I'm going to come save you. No, Fidel Castro is one of the most greediest people in the world. He's someone who used Black people and used their oppression for his own rise and his own success. And
Yep.
Black people are no better off than they were. But guess what? White people are way worse off. So he just leveled the playing field and took the white people's money. I mean, he just totally used Black people to steal from the white people. That is absolutely terrible.
It's wild when you word it that way.
That's exactly. I've been to Cuba. Okay, that is exactly what happened. Okay, that is what he did. And yes, he gave people free education, but
Mm.
that doesn't mean anything when it's all controlled by the government. Because when the government controls everything, everybody's a robot. You're
Yep.
property of the government. And for me, I believe in God. So God and government have always been on opposing sides. That's why you have a separation of church and state. Because in the Bible, they call them publicans in the Bible. They're the publicans. The publicans are evil. The government is bad. And the Bible is like, stay away from the government. Even like the Bible's over and over. They're like, even the tax collectors, even the tax collectors. You
All the
know,
way down.
so, so the main thing is, since the beginning of time, the government and freedom have been on opposite sides. And so what I want to try to get Black people to understand with my run is that the government can never be for us because we want freedom. And you can never, the more and more we tie into government, the more we get from government, the less we're asking to be free. So you have to make up your mind. Do you want freedom or do you want to be tied into the government? And that's where for me, I love AOC. I think she's amazing, but that is where she loses me because I do not want socialism. I don't want. I trust this government not a lick. They wouldn't give us socialism. This government would give us communism. I've lived in wonderful socialistic countries. I lived in Barbados.
Mm,
Barbados is socialism to a T. It's a country of all
wow,
black people. It is got hardly no poverty. 97% of the people are educated, most education in the world, and everyone is living nicely. It's like Canada, you know? You have to have a
interesting.
soul and a conscience to operate a country like that. Barbados will not even let McDonald's. McDonald's tried to come into Barbados and they got rid of it so fast. They're like, get out of here, capitalism. Boom, 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 get out of here. You know, they don't want it. That would
Hmm,
never happen in America. Our wealthy people have too much power as it is. So us asking for more government would just be them trying to control us like a communistic country. And that's what's happening
literally.
because they want to keep their power. So in order for you to have a true socialistic society, you have to have people that are willing to share power. And our oligarchs are not willing to share power. They're not.
Nope.
So,
And you see it happening right in front of our eyes, and people are just like pretending they don't. You know, it's like they literally shut down the whole country.
mhm.
And to think that some states probably won't ever give that power back, they'll never let their people be free. Unfortunately, your state is probably one of them. Your state's the way they dealt with the whole COVID thing has been crazy. The amount of businesses they've killed
But I actually think they've done that to flip the state. I think they're trying to flip the state.
to
Last
make it
time this
Republican.
Yeah,
Hmm.
last time this happened, Arnold Schwarzenegger became our president. So he gets recalled on the 17th. That's what, next week, right? I
Yep.
will not be surprised. I want you to bank on this because I may get into it as well. May get into it, get my name out there. You know, I'll be ready day one if I get it. But I want you to know this. There's going to be someone famous that is going to jump into this race, and you won't even know who it is. But it's going to be someone. I feel it because God told me.
It's probably yay, if I had to guess. He's got residence in Calabasas, so he could do it, right?
But it's gonna be someone because, like I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger got it last time. So the Republicans already have 5 people that are in the race on the Republican ticket. So they started prematurely. I think it's silly to put your hat in prematurely, but they've already started putting their hat in prematurely. But there is going to be someone really big that is going to, by the end of this month, going to jump in there and flip this state. The state is abysmal right now.
You laughed at me, but you didn't answer me.
But you mean
About
Kanye?
yeah, he's
I,
Republican.
he is Republican, and I love Kanye. But the sad thing is that the media has made him out to be so crazy,
Crazy, yeah.
um, and I think there's a little bit to it because I do think he's got some bipolarness. But Kanye is all genius, though, you know,
All
and he,
geniuses have some kind of crazy and bipolarness. As somebody who's worked with a lot of talented artists and everything and musicians,
yeah.
all of them are crazy.
And I'm sure people that follow me must think I'm crazy. You know, I know because I got into it with somebody and they were like, all these crazy transphobic posts you post. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God, yeah, that's a subject, right? All these things happening where they're allowing trans people into sports. And like again, going back to abortions, I am all for people doing with their body with whatever they want. If you want to put a penis on you and you're a woman, go for it. If you want to take your penis off, go for it. Like I don't care. I do personally do not care. But as a father of a daughter, if I saw a trans person in sports against my daughter, I'd feel away.
Yes.
You know, like I just know like if I saw me against, you know, even me at like 14 against a 14-year-old girl, like most of the time I'm like, okay, how's that gonna be fair? You know, like that's not fair at all. And most of the time, you know, there's trans people that are wiping out women's records from high school and college sports, and it's sad. And then I see my people on my friends list from the left that are like, this doesn't affect sports at all. Name one major sport this is affecting. And I'm just thinking like, this seems like a precursor, you know, like it's
Yes.
it's like the test. Will this work? Will people allow this? Will people flip out about this? All right. People flipped out a little bit, not that many. Let's push it a little further, you know?
Yes.
And I don't understand. It's not you put up a post about this. It's not phobia. We're not afraid of trans people. I've hugged trans people. I'm friends with trans people. Like, I don't care. I literally do not care. Like, if one of my friends that I thought was straight my whole life was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be trans now. I'm gonna be like, all right, random but cool," like it's like, who am I to judge and who is anybody to judge? But at the same time, I feel like it's kind of being forced down a lot of people's throats.
Yes, and for me, where I draw the line is when it has to do with children. Having a modeling school, I've come across quite a few trans children, and it has always
Mm,
seemed like an abusive situation with the parent. I had one time where the parent was pushing it more on the child than even the child was trying to do it themselves, you know? So again, I do believe that gender dysphoria is real. But one of my best friends is a trans, and she has said that she's felt this way since, biological male, but she said that she's felt this way since she was a kid. But she didn't become a woman until much later in life. So what bothers me is that there is a push to go after our children. And
mm-hmm.
then that's where, for every trans person, for every gay person, whatever, there are people who go through phases, meaning that I have friends right now that are married to women and have normal lives, and they were as gay as you can imagine in college, and vice versa. I have friends that are, extremely gay now. I don't want to say extremely gay, but they're gay now, and then they were straight in high school. So the main thing is that the road to self discovery is long.
Mm-hmm.
Kids should be focusing on schoolwork, and for me, I was a late bloomer. I didn't even start dating until I was in my 20s.
Oh
I
wow.
don't take that back at all. I would never take that back. I got to know myself. I got to know, who I am. And if you don't even have the foundation of who you are, then even dating can be challenging, because then you can lose yourself. Or there's so many things that come with dating and getting those type of things interacted. So the main thing is that kids should be kids. Their innocence should not be taken from them. And I'm a
Yep.
firm believer that it's the heterosexual community that has done so much abusive things over the years that have been unchecked, and that's what's causing a lot of this. The molestation with children, the women abuse, things of that nature. So many things have happened to our children and to some of these adults that they became broken people,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many things that we're just not we haven't been protecting children the way we should. And now that we are a smarter society, now that we're a more wise society, protecting children's innocence is everything we should do. And if a boy wants to dress up as a girl, that should just be him being a child. There should be no gender identity or anything like that associated with that. And I am so upset, as someone who quote unquote was a tomboy. I hated people stereotyping me or putting me into a box or putting me into a gender role. I am a woman, I am feminine, and I can throw a basketball, and I can shoot a three, and I can do baseball. It feels like to me like we're going backwards. And I
Mm-hmm.
imagined a forward thinking society going forward, meaning let kids be kids. If a boy wears a dress, he's just a boy in a dress, that he doesn't need to be labeled. Why
Right.
are we labeling him?
As
Why are we?
everything labels.
It's absurd to me, and it's like, oh, there's no gender. Oh no, there's no. He's just a boy in a dress. Let him be. Go
Yep.
have fun. You're 8 years old.
Yep. Yeah. Like he'll probably be playing in the mud in a week. Like, is he now like just a mud eater? Is that all he eats? Like it's I don't understand why. I do understand why they're doing it. I mean, I feel like it's definitely part of the demasculation of men. I feel like, while I am very much in strong support of strong women and women leadership and everything, it a lot of women are taking that and making it like anti-man. You know, it's like men are bad. That's how we empower women. Like, no, 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 no. Like, we need strong women and we also need strong men to have a strong society. And if you just wipe one of them out, like you've seen them do with a lot of poor and unfortunately minority families, is by locking up the father. We see it happen all the time. They lock up the father, and the mother's taking care of all the kids. She can't do it. She's working two jobs all the time, doesn't have time to take care of the kids fully. And then all of a sudden, bad stuff starts happening. And then you inject drugs into those neighborhoods too, and then watch it all go rampant. It's
Exactly.
extremely sad. And I just hope there's some like sort of light at the end of the tunnel.
There is. So I'm letting you know that there is a lot of light at the tunnel. I can see the light. I've been posting that this is we're in a chapter, and it's going to be a long chapter. I think the chapter is at least probably 2 to 4 years, if not longer. But I
Mm,
see the light at the end of the tunnel, and the light is that conservative women are coming to the forefront. The only one that can build the bridge in society are conservative women, and I'm a big believer in that because, like you said, the problem with the reason why some of these women, because I know them, why a lot of them have the anti-man complex, is unfortunately toxic masculinity has formed with some of these women. You know, if
hmm,
you watch right now, there's this news show that shows that mostly all children that are molested, for example, are molested by men. 92%. Now, this is also to say maybe men who are molested by women may not report. You know, we also have to include that. You know, but the main thing is if over 90% of men are committing these horrendous crimes, it's what's created this anti-man in a lot of people, this anti-male society. You know, it's what's created these women being super. I don't need, most of the women that I know that are very anti men have had some kind of abuse, you know, and
mm,
just don't want to even deal with it, you know. And then of course I think that the if you want to believe in the powers that be or people that control the society, it's much easier to control a society if the society has weaker men, you know. So if you believe that the society is trying to control, you know, and again, that's why I said it's really sad because right now they're trying to come at our children. So the brainwashing is becoming even more sick because
mm-hmm.
it's like, they've got 2 and 3 year olds right now in Hollywood, because Hollywood is how the brainwashing starts. You know,
Yep.
I've already peeped out that that's the devil's lair, you know. So you've got people that are walking around like Charlie, like Angelina Jolie and Charlize Theron, who have taken little itty bitty children. Angelina Jolie, her daughter was 2 years old when she made her a boy. Okay, 2 years old when she made her a boy. And then they were clapping. Then you had Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron adopted a black man, a little boy, and at 4 years old turned him into a girl. And she adopted at 4 years old. This is what you call, this is abuse, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So because I have 2 children, a 2 and a 4 year old. They don't even know they barely know their ABCs. How would
Mm-hmm.
they know if they're a boy or a girl? This is that parent taking their own sick values and putting it on the child. That parent wanting a girl, that parent wanting, or who even
Right.
knows, maybe sicker than that. They may be getting paid to do it. I mean, it could be all kinds of sick stuff going on in this world, you know. So because these people are made stars, you know, and that's just really sad. And then you have the whole thing with Dwayne Wade. And what I'm so happy about Dwayne Wade's situation, his son, who's just 12 or 13 years old, that goes by the name of a girl now, said that he was mad at his dad for outing him, is what he called it, right?
Hmm.
And good for this 12-year-old boy to have the sense to say my dad should have never outed me. He's like, and he was just 12, and he said that should have been me who decided to out myself. My parents shouldn't have been the one to out me to the world. Good for you. Yes, your parents shouldn't have been the one to out you to the
More
world.
common sense than the parents. I just I just don't I don't understand what will make people see. You know, like we were talking about before the show, people hate the word, but I use it all the time. Sheep. It really is like a perfect word to describe these people that are just going to the slaughter, for lack of a better term. They're literally falling for everything that the news is putting out there. They're falling for everything that Facebook is putting out there. All the fact checkers that are not at all fact checkers.
Hmm.
All these things that people are just blindly believing. And I don't understand, like you said, when I think about it, when you said that all my educated friends are the ones that are falling for everything, I was like, whoa. Yeah, that's interesting because all my friends that are like me, that I didn't even get a college degree. I graduated high school barely. I hated school. It was never for me. I went to college 3 different times for 3 different majors and hated them all 3 different times. And so it's just not for me. But everybody that's like my level of education is questioning it, and I'm like, that's weird. Isn't this like intellectuals versus people that are supposedly not as intellectual?
Well, that's the point. So God told me, and He revealed this to me, right? You have divine intelligence. So that's why people who are not educated, the only thing you have is divine intelligence, meaning that the
Mm.
only thing you have to survive is common sense, right? So
Hmm.
that's how you survive, you know? Intellectual people, I'm an intellect as well. So I'm blessed. That's why I'm really blessed, right? So intellectual people, they have cut off, a lot of them have cut off their divine intelligence. So they're only relying off of
Mm.
more robotic intelligence that they've received from reading, and don't even realize that most of the stuff they're reading is bullshit, you
And
know? So
indoctrination.
yes, it's indoctrination. That's what you call it. What's her name? She's crazy, but Lauren Berber said that she called colleges indoctrination camps. She's
Yeah.
like, all these indoctrination camps.
She cracks me up. She's so like fiery.
I like her. I wanted them to get rid of her, but we need some loonies in there because
Yeah.
she keeps people on their toes, you know.
She's like,
And
I'm
I
carrying my pistol into Congress and you ain't stopping me. Like, ma'am, that's never been allowed. Like,
it's just it's so like I look at that as just ghetto, you know. But
yeah.
that's my intellect side looking at that as just a little barbaric, you know. So the main thing is, if she wants to talk about guns, just talk about guns. You don't
Yeah.
need to show us your guns, you know. And especially, I'm raised in the hood, so to me, the person who's showing you the gun is the person who's a problem. You know, you're like, oh, that's
What's
why
the guy from the Looney Tunes that would shoot off his guns at like the Wile E. Coyote? Like, yeah. She's like, I need my guns.
yes, I was like, she to me, she's actually defeating the purpose because she even did a video where she had all the whole rack of, it felt like I was watching like Che Guevara or something. She had the whole rack of guns behind her, and I'm like, dude, this is not helping your case because you are
No.
just telling people like me, like, oh, we gotta take their guns, you know. It's just you know, just talk
That's
about the
hilarious.
guns. You're smart, you're attractive, and say your piece. You do not need to floss your guns because real people who believe in protecting themselves know that keeping a gun discreet, especially because of children and other things, you're discreet with it, you know. But people who need to show off their guns are normally the dangerous people,
Oh
you know.
yeah.
Normally people where you're like, oh, let's watch out for them.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I gain perspective on moving around. Like I have not traveled a ton, but I've lived in Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona, and Oklahoma, and then in Massachusetts. So Massachusetts, you have to jump through hoops to get your LTC, and it's a pain in the ass to, like me as a medical marijuana patient. Well, I'm not anymore. I got rid of my card in hopes that I can get my LTC. But we're not even allowed to get an LTC as a medical marijuana patient. But like in Wyoming, when I lived there, I was able to get a Wyoming ID and then walk into the gun store and walk out with a pistol on my hip within 15, 20 minutes. Like they do a quick background check. I have not even a misdemeanor on my record, so
Mm.
the background checks come back like this every time. Like a job's like, oh, I'll call you in a week, and then they call me 10 minutes later, like, oh, I've never seen anyone go through that fast. I'm like, well, but shoot, my ADD just took over. What was I just saying?
You were just talking about guns. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah. So perspective. When I was here, I was actually kind of anti-gun when I was here. Like I was like, why do people need guns? I don't get it. And then when I moved to Wyoming, I got a gun. And then when you go out to a restaurant, you look around and it's like gun, 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 gun. All right, I don't really need to be on edge here. Like if somebody was to come in and do something stupid, one of these guys will get them if I don't, you know.
mhm.
And when I moved back here after living like that, it actually was like, whew, whew. I wonder who has a gun. Like I don't like this at all, you know. Because it's like it's way easier to get an illegal gun in Massachusetts than it is to get a legal one. 100%.
hmm Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, I'm not a big gun person, but I would never want to take away anybody's gun. I do have a little bit of reservations with automatic weapons, just because so many of them have been lost. One thing I like about the Republican Party is that they want to instill faith back into the world, and I honestly think we've got to do something to stop with the amount of violence. I think the violence is an issue because so many people are disconnected, and people are
Mm,
disconnected in so many ways from having a spiritual foundation or some type of moral foundation. And so what we really have in this society right now, which is just really really sad to me, is we've got a lot of like mental patients, like literally, people are
literally.
just we think that the people that we see on the street are crazy, but I would say almost everyone in society is dealing with some type of mental disorder because we have all been watching violent films, which we become numb to. We've been
Yep.
seeing violence in schools, which we become numb to. We've got homeless people on the streets, which we become numb to.
Hmm.
We've got abortions that we've legalized, which we become numb to. So when a society has no kind of moral compass, then the only thing left is insanity. So
Mm.
the main thing is, and this is what I respect about the Republican Party right now, is that they're trying to bring people back to that family, that moral compass and so forth, because we're only going to continue to self-destruct going this way.
Yeah, it seems like a war on traditional family values. You know, like it's like they don't want a strong mom and a strong dad that work together in synchronicity to have strong children that, help society type of thing. It's like, why? Why do you want that? Hmm.
And it's sad because the only thing you have is a society that will crumble. So that's what I worry. I'm like, is this what's the game plan here? And I'm very optimistic because God has put it on my heart that conservative women, we're going to come in there, we're going to come battling, and we're going to come fighting. And I'm hoping with me, which is a little bit different than Candace Owens, I'm hoping that I can relate to more people. I think Candace Owens does a really good job of relating to white people. White America loves her, but I don't have any black friends that like her, and I like her, So I have older black people in my family that like her, but my family is mainly Republican, so they all love her, So
Why
I
is it do you think that they don't like her?
I think one is that she with when you talk to, especially, it's kind of cultural. When you talk with African Americans, you can't talk down to African Americans. You can't talk down to us. And so when Candace, even the way she delivers and the way she talks, she's just probably confident. But when you
It's a
talk
little
and you're
condescending.
you're a little, you're stupid. Are you guys dumb? Like that's not the way you get black people behind you. So
That's not the way you get anybody behind you.
well, she gets a lot of people behind her,
True.
but but the main thing is that certain people aren't going to. You have to be a really confident person to really even receive that. If black people, so many of us suffer from self-esteem issues. This is real. So someone talking down and condescending to us is not going to be received at all. You got to just be real. You got to understand, and you also have to be empathetic. She has no empathy for what Black people are going through. I said to one of my white friends, that's why I was really proud of one of my posts. One of my white friends liked it, and I was talking about how the Republican Party is trying to pull white people into back to family values. And I said the reason they're pulling white people back to family values is because of all these statistics, you know. And my white
Mm-hmm.
friend, she liked it right away, you know. And it's true. If you could have literally wrote blackout and made it whiteout, and it would have been the exact same story. The only difference with Black people is that we go to jail for our crimes, but white America is in shambles right now. They
Yep.
are on drugs just as much as Black people, if not more. You know, they are on. None of my white friends are married practically. I have more Black friends that are married than I have white friends that are married. You know what I'm saying? And I have a lot of white friends. So the main thing is 50 to 60% of white women are single. You know, you've got you know, welfare right now is big in the white community. Every single thing that's wrong with the Black community is so the government has failed us all. You know, Hollywood has failed us all. You
Yeah, and they get
know.
all the poor people fighting each other, so that way they never realize that we're all in the same boat.
Exactly. And who we should all be mad at and pointing fingers at is the government. But what the government's doing, all the confusion to make everybody point the fingers at different ethnic groups. Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
battle is good versus evil. It's not about race. And the person who is evil right now is the government.
Yep. And that's it. Like the government is the one doing this. They're the ones that overreacted and shut everything down, and basically promoted and transferred money to the Amazons and Walmarts and big corporations of the world. As a small business owner, it's really, really unfortunate what's happened to my business, what's happened to a lot of people's businesses. You know, I think they're saying upwards of 25 to 40% of small businesses will go under after all is said and done with all this shutdown business. And I think the long term implications of that is going to far outweigh what COVID did this past year, because we're already seeing the death toll, the death numbers, you know, coming down, the death percentages coming down as more people are getting immune to it, as there's a vaccine out there, as people have already gotten it. All these things are happening. So that's going to start to level out. But what's not going to level out is the fact that you have so many small businesses that went under, and suicides and fatal overdoses are up 40% in a year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just going to keep going up and up and up because it just trickles down, right? It's like you have one horrible year where everything goes wrong, you think you can recover, and then that goes on for 3 more years, and the government's just giving you enough money to trickle you along. Here you go, come on, come on, come on. And then you realize that you have nothing, and unfortunately I've had a few friends that have killed themselves. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I know, or at least I suspect, you know, unfortunately that's not usually in the obituary, and with the COVID stuff you're not allowed to grieve. You're not allowed to go to funerals and wakes, you know, like so you don't really get answers, but you could suspect. And I think that a lot more of us are going to start seeing that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had a woman on my show last week, 2 weeks ago. We did a Valentine's Day special with me, and she talked about 5 of her friends have committed suicide
Yep.
over this COVID, and she just said that, you know, she's a big anti-vaxxer too. She's someone who survived cancer, so she's like really, you know, super spiritual, you know. And but she's not Christian, but she's just, you know, she's so much like, you know, when it's your time, it's your time, basically.
Mhm.
You know, that's how she lives her life, you know. She's like, look, I've survived cancer, so let me tell you, when it's your time, it's your time, you know. So I say that to say that she said the suicide rate is just, she's someone who has been spending COVID counseling and really reaching out to people because the suicide rate is just out of control. And what I worry more about too, I mean, suicide I worry about too, but I worry about violence increasing. People aren't even
Mhm.
talking about the amount of times that violence is increasing. And these moratoriums and everything right now are on. When moratoriums are off and people really have to start paying bills, because you could have lived this whole pandemic and not even have paid a bill. You know, rent
Mhm.
and everything has been pushed off, you know, but when the real bill comes around, the landlord stops knocking and things like that, then you're going to see people start stressing, and stress is what leads to a lot of illnesses, and it
Yep.
leads to a lot of crime. I also worry about health. I'm a very empathetic person, so I am so mad that the government has not even mentioned health or health care throughout this entire pandemic. I
Nope.
told someone the other day, I said, we will get reparations before we get health care during this time. Okay, because if 600,000 people dying wasn't enough for them to say, hey, we need to get health care, you see Bernie Sanders AOC ain't even mentioned it. Okay, so it's
Nope.
not happening. Okay.
Yeah, they'll say
So
free healthcare for all, but they won't teach anybody about healthcare.
yes, so the main thing is that it's just sad that we are that we're in this situation. And
Mm,
I think more and more people are waking up, and I think more and more people are rising up.
mm. It's it's gone. I was feeling that way up until last year. That more and more people were rising up until the people that I thought were rising up became like the sheep. It's like all the people in the cannabis industry that I'm with, not all the people, but like half of them, they think I'm the biggest piece of crap in the world. Like they think because I just question these conversations that we're having here. I'm questioning things. I'm thinking about things. I'm thinking in my head, wait a second, all you cannabis people were with me, or I should say I was with you because y'all were there well before me, protesting and demonstrating and fighting for cannabis rights because who lied about cannabis and made it illegal? Big pharma, big government, big oil, and now all of a sudden, big pharma is just to be trusted, and we should all just take the vaccine. And I'm a bad person because I choose not to take it. Like I actually had somebody in the cannabis industry tell me that I can't come to their farm unless I have the vaccine. And I said, well, I can wear a mask if that makes you more comfortable. Like I'm perfectly okay with that. I respect your boundaries and stuff. I'm not. Obviously, you guys know I don't want to wear a mask. I don't think that
Mhm.
they're very useful unless they're at least like N99 masks and higher, and even that's only remotely useful for X amount of period of time. But I'll even do that, and they're like, no, we got to keep her safe. I'm like, how is that gonna keep her safe? Is that a guarantee? How do you know I haven't already had COVID? What if I'm immune? Like what if, like there's so many different variables to it, but it's just, I point out the hypocrisy of like, listen, y'all have been saying that big pharma is bad for decades, fighting for cannabis rights, and now all of a sudden that we should just trust them. It's like they became the people that believed in reefer madness.
Mhm.
It just like became full circle. They became the ridiculous people that actually thought cannabis was going to rot your brain. When since the 70s, our government has known that it's neuroprotective.
Mhm.
But now let's
Well,
all trust them.
well, cannabis, you could even say, because I know Rastafarians, they believe that cannabis even brings you higher to God. So, I mean, the main thing is that um, cannabis helps with a lot of different ailments. So I think that's the main reason why they wanted to keep it out. Um,
Yep.
I think that the amount of fear that is being pushed into society should make everyone worry. And again, I'm a historian buff. I was raised by an Ashkenazi Jewish woman. So to me, there's a lot of reverse psychology going on here. I see things that I have read in textbooks about, with in history textbooks about, this is all crazy. You have a greater chance of being hit by a car or getting into a car accident than you do of dying from COVID. Okay. In LA alone last year, there were almost 60,000 car accidents, and there were 20,000 people that have died from COVID. Okay. Out of 10 million people that live in this city. For us to be spending the amount of time scaring people, you would think that
Mm,
we would have spent way more time telling people not to drive. Why are we
yep.
telling people not to drive? I mean,
Cars are illegal, banned.
yes, I mean, it's again, I think I'm mad at even politicians for trying to encourage people. Now, I respect a politician if they're elderly or if they have pre-existing conditions, showing me that they're getting a drug. because to me there can be a sense of responsibility there, even though this has not been approved yet by the FDA and we don't know side effects. But if you were elderly with pre-existing conditions, I could say that you have a sense of responsibility or trying to be responsible. You are being extremely irresponsible if you are a healthy individual trying to convince someone to do a drug that you know nothing about. That is the definition. I put on my post today. It's like me watching someone do an 8 ball and them asking me to join and then telling me that this is going to stop me from getting a disease that I have a 99.96 chance of living from. Like when I look at TV, I just feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. I'm like, what's going on here?
And it all just feels so dishonest too. Like the amount of people that have, 4 or 5 comorbidities, or, they died from a heart attack, but they tested positive for COVID, so that's a COVID death. Like why are they trying to pad the numbers so much? And where did the flu go? Wait a
Where the
second.
flu went has just been the craziest thing in the world. So I mean, and I have to convince intelligent people that there is no way. They're like, well, COVID is 4 times more. Well, if COVID is 4 times more contagious, then the numbers should reflect that the flu is still 4 times less. That would
Yep.
be because that means that people are still in the same connection. People in certain states haven't shut down at all. South Carolina, I listened to Christy. Christy hadn't shut down at all. She's been saying F you government the entire time. You know what I'm saying? So
Love it.
you're telling me no one's getting the flu in South Dakota? I can understand no one getting the flu in California because we've been on lockdown. But you're telling me in South Dakota it's disappeared? Doesn't even make sense.
No.
Do I look stupid to you? Like what?
And then they get mad for you questioning it, right? Like
Yes, because the truth, people don't want to deal with the truth. The truth.
it
And
it blows my mind because like for me, all I care about is the truth. Like it's like, oh man, that really sucks that that's true, but that's the truth. I should accept it. Like instead of being like, I don't like that, I'm not. That's not the truth. Fact checkers said it was wrong. Like,
the fact that they're hiding the truth, the fact that they're covering up conservative voices, this should be really alarming to
yep.
people, and if there are certain Christians who think that this is like Armageddon, and I pray not, because in the end it's the robots that lose. People, that's why people are, if you want to know why those crazy people are like, don't take it, mark of the beast, because according to scripture, we're the ones who don't get it, we're good. We're the ones who survive.
Got me feeling real good. Like, 'cause it's so funny, right? Because people are like, people are like, when everybody gets vaccinated, we'll be good. And I'm like, wait, I'm not getting vaccinated, so how is everybody gonna get vaccinated?
Yes, no, the Bible, it says the foolish will perish, and so the main thing is that, I pray for everyone. Again, I think that, even if there is nothing bad about the vaccine, which I pray, I don't want there to be anything bad about the
Right.
vaccine. I want the vaccine to be wonderful. I want it to save lives and things like that. But people should still be able to have their own opinion on whether or not they want to take it. And I think for me, what hurts my heart, and again, I talk to God about it, what hurts my heart is people being silenced, and even me jumping into politics, they're going to try to silence me,
Yep.
So the main thing is that people should, if there's nothing to hide, you should want to hear everything. I've been in sales for 20 years. Okay. You tell everything. People go bungee jumping every day. People have unprotected sex every day. People drink and then go drive every day. People do risky things with their lives every day. As long as you don't hide it, as long as they silenced Robert Kennedy Jr. I'm like, why are you silencing him? If you didn't silence him, you would probably get me to get vaccinated, because then I'm a type person, I like to weigh my options. If 20 million people have been vaccinated, this many people have survived, this many people have died and been injured, then I could weigh my options. But if you're trying to conceal and hide that there's been anything wrong, you make me say, oh, I'm good, I'll take my chances,
Yep.
because it doesn't feel good, and authenticity and honesty are everything, especially when you're talking to people about drugs, and that's what vaccines are. They're drugs, so we,
Yep.
we don't need to act like they're anything else but drugs.
And the companies that are making them do not exactly have the best rep.
Yeah.
Johnson and Johnson, like, weird. Well, you can't even trust baby powder that goes on your skin. Never mind an injection.
But let me tell you about Johnson. God is so amazing, because it was on my heart last year, and I'm not real popular yet because I haven't put money into advertising. I'm going to wait until April before I start putting money into advertising myself, because I want to get some things tweaked out, But it was on my heart to do my video that I did about Johnson, right? And then I was like, I got to get this out to more people, because we've got Moderna, we've got Pfizer. I want people that are going to do it. Just go with Moderna or Pfizer. God is just putting it on my heart. And then the Pope, not the Pope, the Catholic Church came out yesterday telling everybody to stay against it, and I
Hmm.
thought, I was like, oh my God. So, when God talks to us, he talks to all of us, So the Pope it's been all over the news today. The Pope is telling everyone that it is morally contradictory for Johnson and Johnson to be approved to do a vaccine. Okay, so the Catholic Church is telling all Catholics to go with Moderna or go with Pfizer. Smart, and I'm no Catholic, I'm no Pope or no Cardinal, but how great and how responsible. No, politicians don't have the guts to do anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So for the church to have to step in, okay, because it shouldn't have even been here. It should have been when you know that these people are linked to terrible things. When they asked you if they could start pushing drugs, you should have said no. But you
Mm-hmm.
guys didn't have the guts to do it. So the church all the way in Italy had to say something and step in and say no, 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 because they couldn't have it be on their conscience. That's good.
Mm. I mean, Pfizer and Moderna don't have much better of a rep. They've all gotten fined billions and billions of dollars for all the stuff that they've done. Like it's just it plays into the big pharma thing and the hypocrisy that we were talking about before the show. One of the things that while I'm not a Trump supporter, one of the things that attracted me to him more than Biden was him calling out big pharma and him calling out the military industrial complex.
Oh, I didn't know. See, I never knew. I didn't hear. See, Trump, every time I heard him, he was just saying so much racist rhetoric. So that's really what turned me off. But had I know he was standing up to pharma, I would have definitely
That's what I
listened to him.
initially thought. I actually lost a lot of friends in 2016 because I was like, "You're voting for Trump, dude. Like, Hillary's the worst person in the world. Like, why don't you just not vote or vote for Bernie? Like, write in Bernie. Like, you not voting right now means way more than you voting right now. Just trust me." And they were just like, "You're a fucking idiot." Blah, blah, blah. I was like, you're right. Like, you support Trump. You like love Trump this much. Like, are you really that racist and stupid? And I went on with that for a while, and then one of my friends. I can't remember who it was. He sent me a video of what the news said Trump said compared to the full speech. So they showed like what he was talking about before it, and then it like popped in the CNN thing on the right, and then it showed where CNN ended, and the clip kept going. Like where the amount of times that he denounced white supremacy, it's like 5 to 10 different times on 5 to 10 different occasions where he was like, I completely and utterly denounce white supremacy. It's disgusting to me. I can't stand that. That's my base. Now, is he a businessman who played into that base to get elected? Totally. And that's where my problem lies with him because he was like, all right. I personally don't think Donald Trump is racist. Like, if you look at his track record before he ran for president, it's just like he's always tried to help communities that were, impoverished and everything. And a lot of the times, he hired illegals. He hired people of different ethnicities for his organizations when you really look into it. And so looking at his track record and then talking about what we're talking about, how the media lies so much, I started watching Trump speeches. And I was like, wow. Almost every Trump speech is exactly the same thing. So this is why they were able to nitpick and find the one or two sentences. Because if you listen through, Trump is trumping, and he's always gonna say something that he like puts his foot in his mouth. That's what he does. He's just like he's too much of an egomaniac. It's like he wants to help, but like everything has to be his way, in order for it to be the way he's gonna help. Um, but I noticed so many inconsistencies with what the news showed Trump saying and what he actually said, including January.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that whole entire speech. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, Trump Jr. was firing the crowd up more than anything. Like when he got on stage, he literally was just yelling and screaming and having people chanting and whatnot. Trump's speech was very well spoken. I do think there's some sketchy stuff with the election. I do. I've always thought that. I mean, look at the 2016 Democratic primaries. They clearly cheated Bernie out of that. Clearly. And so it can be done. It's not impossible.
Yes, but I think that's just the point. So I think that we live in a republic that is disguised as a democracy. So, like when people said that the Russians were, helping Trump, and I never bought into any of this. The people that run this country are oligarchs. Okay, and if
Yep.
people don't understand the country they live in, then I'm sorry, you have to let the veil come off. Trump, Trump got in office probably because of big oil and probably because of his billionaire friends, more so than Russia. Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So, and Trump got pulled out by those same people. I think that they did the same thing they did with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was, in the in crowd and she got boxed out. I don't think she knew she was going to get boxed out, but she got boxed out. And I think that Trump got boxed out. I think that God is working though. I think that Trump, I used to think that Trump was like the Antichrist. I was like, oh my God, he's so terrible. But no, I actually don't think that Trump is terrible at all. I think that Trump, if anything, I think that God brought us Trump. I think that Trump has really, really opened our eyes to the corruption in our government. He's opened our eyes to the racism that has been continuing to go on because, educated people, we've lived in this false sense. We have literally lived in the matrix. Okay. It's literally the matrix. We have lived in
Mm.
this false reality that, the 60s were so long ago, the 70s were so long ago. And Trump was like, no, you're still in the 60s, you're still in the 70s. It's just disguised differently. No,
Yep.
you're actually worse than you were in the 60s and 70s because you had your families back then. So the main thing is that he really opened our eyes. I think that it was meant. I think now that Kamala Harris and Biden they've got this much rope. All of America, especially Black America, we're looking at every single thing they're doing, and we are on them like a hawk. This Voting Rights Bill Act it's going to be the Republican Party is going to get more and more Black people over the next 4 years. Okay, so unless they, for some reason, they take our voting rights. If they take our voting rights, then it's going to be crazy. But if these voting rights go through, which I'm going to pray they go
Mm.
through, and if the Republican Party focuses on just the morals and focuses on really the freedom and really becomes the party about freedom, because we are all seeing that our government is corrupt. And for me, what I want to do is I want to start bringing people out of that. I want to start saying, hey, we need to start building up our own Black community. We need to start, doing for ourselves. But see, let me tell you if history repeats itself, every time we have built up ourselves, when Black people were together and we build ourselves up, like Candace Owens quote unquote says, all we have to do is just get our stuff together and it's the white man. Well, we did that and we got bombed. That's what happened to Tulsa. That's what happened with Black Wall Street. So
Philadelphia.
exactly. So if we've got Black America really has to make a decision right now.
And people
Either
don't even
we're
know about that. I want to stop there for a second. That
Mhm.
literally like empowered Black neighborhoods that were having very successful Black businesses, and we're starting to make a huge move in the country. We're literally bombed by our own country to be stopped.
Yes. Yes, yes, and where Black people right now have a little bit of leeway right now is that there's so many more minorities here. So because of that, we're not as much of a threat, even though, which I think is so funny, they still try to make us the face of the threat, which I hate that. But who white America's really scared of are Latinos, and it's because of the numbers, so
Mm.
you can see it when I hear, like you say, Trump isn't racist. When I hear Trump, he seems very racist to Latinos, and I think he's purposely trying to do that. I also thought it was no coincidence that the leader of the Proud Boys, they put a Latino man. I thought that was subliminal.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's subliminal programming. They're starting to make Latinos the new black, and it's because of the numbers. We were a threat because of just our godliness. Black people, but we only make up 12% of the population. Latinos by 2030 are due to be majority of the population in this country. So there's going to be a lot of crazy racism over this next 10 years, because again, this is the reality, so I think,
Mm-hmm.
again, this is why we're trying to get abortion, why we're trying to get rid of abortion, why we're trying to get rid of abortion, and why we're trying to close our borders. I think it's really about, a lot of that is about just maintaining white power, and white power is harder to maintain when you have a country like ours that has so many levels in which you can rise.
Mm.
So the way my mind works, I'm like, are we trying to turn into Brazil? Brazil is a country where it's majority black and Latino, right? But the white people still control it, and it's just this small. And how they control it is they just get rid of the middle class.
Yep.
How deep are they trying to go to maintain power? And these are things that I worry about. Because, like I said, Black people, we are not a threat. They love to make us a threat. They love to point us out to be thugs and this and that. And like I said, I think our essence is threatening. We have melanin, we're talented, we've got these divine things that is threatening, but we're not even organized. We have no sense of community. We have no sense of family. We have no sense of identity. There's
Mm.
nothing the white man has to feel threatened about us. His threat of us is is something he's created just to make us think that we're a threat. You see what I'm saying? It's psychological,
Mm.
because there's no reason why a white man should have threat for the Black community. We're all messed up. So he's got us all trained. But who doesn't have that is the Latinos. So Latinos do have a sense of family. They do have a sense of self. They not all of them, but the main thing is that, and they also are not aborting their babies as much as we are, and they're
Mm.
here in much larger numbers.
Oh yeah.
So the main thing is that we've got to figure out how do we get this country that is so diverse, and everyone that is starting to treat each other like crabs in a barrel. How do we get each other together, and
Mm.
how do we get each other to where the ruling class doesn't feel threatened? And only a really smart, wise person could massage all those different egos. And I'm a firm believer, and this is where I kind of agree with the Republicans as well. The only way a society can even exist with this much diversity is if everyone's got two common things, and that's about freedom and liberty, and has a moral compass. Okay, so we've got to put some type of morality into society, and I think it's
Yep.
just about our children. I think we should all say, hey, doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, doesn't matter if you're Asian or Black. When it comes to children, all of our children are going to be treated this way. Because whichever you do after 18, if you want to, cut off, if you want to castrate yourself, if you want to dye your hair blonde, if you want to sleep with a pig, that's on you. But everyone who is under 18 is going to be protected. Their innocence is going to be protected. We're not going to push anything on them. We're going to censor what they're exposed to. We're going to really, really, really shelter. We're the matrix doesn't exist, but these people under 18, they need to believe in the matrix. They need to
Mm,
be in the matrix. They need to be in a bubble so tight that we can all agree on that, and then we all need to believe in freedom and liberty. So that's the only way this system can work, is if we all have those things in common.
mm. You know, in 2012, in a cannabis-induced moment, I had jokingly said Sousa 2028 because that's when I'll be old enough to run. And man, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe because I feel
Yeah.
like, as I feel like my outward appearance, which is not always true actually, but my outward appearance is as a white man, right? But you'd be surprised the amount of times that I hang out with, especially Latino people. They just think I'm also Latino, and
Yeah.
I'm Portuguese, I'm native, and then a whole slew of white things like German, Italian, Irish, whatever, all that stuff. Um, but I grew up very poor. I hung out with mostly black people when I was younger. I was into hip hop. I didn't like I ended up moving to Plymouth, which was like I grew up in New Bedford and then I moved to Plymouth. And Plymouth is like a primarily white town. Like it's like back then it was like at least Plymouth South where I was at is like primarily like the la di da type of white people. And me, even though again I'm outwardly appearing white to people, I was picked on viciously for looking like a terrorist, looking Arab, because I got my clothes from Savers and they had brand new clothes from Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister and everything. So it's as I don't really like to like consider myself white. I don't even know what to consider myself really. I just like call myself a mutt because at the end of the day, we all kind of are just mutts. Like I've always said that if we DNA tested racists, that'd be it for them. Like, are you gonna be racist against African people if you're partially African? No, probably not. But I feel like I have a good understanding of both sides. Like and it's not really even sides. It's both people whom we're divided to think that there are sides because there shouldn't be a side.
Amen.
We're all human beings. Like realistically, our melanin makes up what, 1-2% of our genetic makeup.
Hmm.
There's it's a beautiful thing. Pasty white people or beautiful bronze skin. I mean, come on. It's like it's not even fair. So, but like it's so little of what makes all of us up that it kind of just seems ridiculous to me as somebody who grew up in a poor neighborhood where like racism wasn't a thing and then moved to a racist town.
Hmm.
I never understood it. I've never understood it. And I actually made the joke. I was talking to somebody about this earlier. And I said to her, if anything, because somebody tried to come at me and say that I was racist, and I said, good one, bro. Like, you must not know who the fuck I am if you're saying
Yeah.
that. I was like, if anything, I'm probably more racist against white people. Like, I judge white people way harder. The amount of times somebody put up a status about, like, saying white people to white people is like the N-word to them. And I'm like, the amount of times in my head that I'm just like, oh my God, white people, why do you do the things that you do? Like, it happens all the time. And, like, I don't know. And that's just, of course, like, jokingly, but, um, I don't know, man. It's just all confusing to me. I'll never understand racism. It's all indoctrinated, I think. Um, I can't see. I think it's perspective. People need more perspective. Like if you just had one cool black friend that you met, I promise you, there's a ton of other cool ass black people. Like I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. And people just need to open their mind and realize that your truth might not actually be the truth that you think is the truth. And people like us are constantly questioning our truth or the
Hmm.
truth, what is presented as the truth, I should say. Um, and I think that's important. And it's important not to attack people like us for doing so.
Well, you have it right with your third eye. Christians get on me because I love to use the word third eye, but Christians always call it the Holy Spirit. But either way, it's the same thing. It's divine that allows you. It's divinity that allows you to see through the unseen. Um, and I just thought it was so amazing that Stevie Wonder is moving to Ghana. It's like the perfect example of someone who has no sight but can see clearer than
Mm.
everybody who has eyes. And again, he's the same thing, like why an uneducated person can see through things more than an educated person sometimes, because all you have is divine intelligence. You don't have anything else to go with, right? So it's just your own common sense. And the same thing with a blind person. When a blind person has no sight, the only thing they have is divine intelligence to be able to ration, to be able to feel, to be able to sense, to be able to see through things. So this is why blind people and even deaf people can do the piano, can do different, play instruments, can become lawyers and things like that, because there's divine intelligence that we have when we're connected to the source. Our eyes can be the devil because they allow us to see the bullshit. Okay, when you can't
Mm.
see the bullshit, then all you see is the truth. So in some ways, blind people are more lucky than we are because all they see is the truth. So they're not distracted.
Yeah. They don't see any like
Because
outward
the TV,
appearance to even judge.
yeah, they don't see all the distractions that we see.
Mm.
We see the politician who's the puppet. We see we go off of so much emotions off of our sight, but what we're really seeing isn't always the truth. I always use the example of the sky. The sky is not blue. Everybody talks about the sky being blue. The sky is not blue. What's blue is the water. The sky is a reflection of the water.
Hmm.
So the main
True.
thing is that your eyes can make you see something that is not real. You understand? So that's an illusion. That's an illusion. That's the sky's not blue, the water's blue. It's a reflection of the water. The sun hits the water and you see the sky. So that's that that that's it. So again, when we have the divine intelligence, we're able to see through it.
Yeah. And it's definitely frustrating when you see so many around you that just don't see it. It's like right in front of your face, right there, right there, and they just can't see it. It's frustrating, but I'm very grateful for people like you that I've seen a lot of. I click on the profile of the people that are like attacking you and stuff, and I'll just be like, oh, another like black person coming at her about this. Like, okay, like they like you're very brave for what you're doing right now because they've got a lot of people like us just brainwashed that the left is doing everything good for us and the right is doing everything bad for us. And it's there's the truth is always in the middle.
Yes,
That's what I
always
like.
in the middle. Yes.
And people just need to start realizing that. But it's already been an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't realize that. I looked up at the little timer up here. It's already been an hour and 20 minutes. That's crazy. Um, Before we get out of here, and I definitely want to have you on again once you know more about what your political future is. But is there anywhere where could people find you? And what's next?
Well, they can find me on B_Michelle_Lyons. That's my Instagram, and my Facebook is Michelle Lyons. And I have my YouTube show, which I'm going to expand on by the end of this month. And I'm going to start doing Fox and CNN and all those big shows next month. So I'm trying to spend this next 30 months just
Hmm.
trying to get my next 30 days or so, just trying to really get my my strong points off, seeing how brave, I want to go into this. Do I just want to come blazing and just wake everybody up? Main thing is that I just really want, I'm running as an independent, and my campaign is going to be blue, indigo, violet, which just means to turn California purple. I believe the truth, like you said, is in the middle, and I believe the middle is the color purple. It's the
I
blue
love
and the
it.
red mixed together. So we've got to start focusing on our children, and if we can come together and focus on creating just a very naive morale world for them. And then obviously, people at every point in someone's life, they have had to, see that the world is not as rosy, but to me, that should be when brains are already developed, and when kids already have a sense of emotional self and have a sense of self, and they're able to go into a world and decide, what identity they want to be, who they want to be, with who they want to be,
Yep.
and I'm a firm believer that I am who I am because I waited, and I'm a living testament that, getting to know yourself and really able to discern situations stop you from being in from being a victim.
It seems like you're really able to block out the noise early on, and it's led to a lot of clarity and later on in life now.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll have to have you again in a few months. Um, if you're watching out there, listening out there, make sure you subscribe or follow wherever you're listening or watching. I will be back next Wednesday, and then I believe the Wednesday after that. Yep, the Wednesday after that is my album release show. So it just happened to fall on Wednesday. My album is releasing on March 18th. I have not released a solo album since 2016, and I have not released a solo album under my real rap name. I kind of like made a fake name and released an album there since 2012. So it's been a long time, and I guess that's the one good thing about the shutdown is leading me back to music to like be my therapist.
Awesome.
But yeah, as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good vibes to you. Peace out.